do you behave the way you behave because that is who you are? Or do you behave the way you behave because it is a coping mechanism that you have gotten and all of a sudden you have assumed it as your identity? Karibuni, sit down. Yes, karibuni, it's me, Vivian Bwana, and this is Shonamoyo, where we talk, share, and empower. Have you watched our previous episodes? Because this is the month of March, and we are talking about trauma and what it is. Have you thought about, after last week's episode, like, have you been able to sit down and ask yourself, could you be carrying some trauma in your life and you're not even aware of it? Do you need somebody to come and actually talk to you about it? Or do you need even to just analyze and figure out if this is a thing? I talked about having to introspect oneself, and sometimes you ask yourself, why do you behave the way you behave? Do you behave the way you behave because that is who you are? Or do you behave the way you behave because it is a coping mechanism that you have gotten and all of a sudden you have assumed it as your identity? So I will say it again. Do you behave the way you behave because that is who you are? Or do you behave the way you behave because you have developed a coping mechanism that you have now assumed as your identity? These are important conversations to have. These are important talks to consider for you to be a better person. Today, I want us to talk about childhood trauma. Childhood trauma is one that happens when you are a child. Trauma that you experience when you are a child. How does that look like? We grow up in different environments, and the environment that we are in can easily breed for us trauma that can later come and affect you even in your childhood or can affect you in your adulthood. What are some of the things that you can consider childhood trauma? For example, we have neglect, like being neglected as a child and not being given the attention that you need. The other thing is children are quite resilient, by the way. They endure a lot, like they can endure a lot, but they are actually human. And so they are bound to get hurt, they are bound to get disappointed, and children need care. And so when they are not given that care that they need, what happens is they experience a lot of neglect, and that can cause childhood trauma. What other thing can cause childhood trauma? Sexual abuse. This, I think we know, where we have kids who are being raped either by teachers or their caregivers or those around them or even just strangers. This can cause childhood trauma. Bullying, oh my God, bullying is real, especially in school. Even when they look different from other children, the child can experience bullying. Let's talk about how we talked about monolization like it was just a thing. Monolization caused a lot of trauma for so many people. There are some people who went to high school and have never been able to recover from what they experienced in Form 1, and up to date they're still not able to recover from it. And so there are many things that can cause childhood trauma or childhood trauma. But then how do you even know that someone is experiencing childhood trauma? For children, you will realize that they are finding it difficult even to pay attention, for example. In school, they are not able to focus, they're not able to pay attention, they're not able to listen. You will realize even at some point they can choose to become very defensive. When you talk to them, they are constantly defensive and very accusatory. They just want to defend themselves all the time. You will realize sometimes when you have little kids, you realize sometimes if you had potty trained them, they start regressing. They start going back to older habits that they had already overcome. So for example, if you had potty trained them, all of a sudden they start peeing on themselves, they start pooping on themselves, yet this is something they had already overcome. You start noticing the child wants to spend time alone all the time. They want to be alone, they want to be secluded. It can also be the opposite. When a parent comes or when somebody they trust comes, they always want to be close to that person. They don't want that person to go. This could be signs that a child has experienced some kind of trauma. Even as an adult, you still can experience effects of childhood trauma. For example, you will find somebody who has experienced childhood trauma and has not been able to heal from it. They start having trouble relating with people, for example. Because one of the things that happens with childhood trauma, for example, especially in the area of child abuse, you realize there's an issue of trust. And so you realize as an adult, you find it difficult to trust people. These are people who sometimes it's difficult even to get into a relationship with someone because of the trauma they experience. Now, here is the thing I need to point out. For children, it's not just what happens to them. It is also what happens to those who are around them that they love and treasure. For example, you will realize a child will experience trauma because either the mom was beating the dad, or the dad was beating the mom, or they were living in a violent home or in an emotionally abusive home. Unaweza pata even the dad never used to speak to the child, for example, but was constantly very verbally abusive to the mother. This can cause trauma to a child. And this is why we always say it's important for us now, as we look at what are the ways we can handle abuse. It is important for us to look at how we are able to create safe environments for our children. I want to give an example of the situations where we find people are in abusive marriages, for example, and then the conversation they say is, I am staying because of the kids. But then you realize you could actually be causing trauma to the child by staying in that relationship where they are seeing you being abused. In relation to that, please seek help, or please talk to someone. Nobody can understand the place you're in except you. So you need to speak to someone. You need to have conversations with someone about what is happening. So what happens to the people that the children love, they pick it and it becomes trauma to them. And when they become adults, it becomes a thing for them because they will start doing the things that they saw happening in their childhood. Or they'll behave differently. They'll be like, the way I saw my dad beat up my mom, forget, men are trash. I have no interest in men. I have no interest in having a marriage or a relationship. All those things, mutaachana too. It comes from somewhere. It is not just talking. It comes from somewhere. And as an adult, what can you do to be able to deal with childhood trauma? First of all, you need to be able to identify it. Identify it. Is like I asked the question, do you behave the way you do because that is who you are, or because you developed some kind of coping mechanism as a child and then it has become an identity? And right now you don't need it. If you felt like you needed to protect yourself as a child because of something you went through, as an adult you don't need that coping mechanism anymore. And so you need to let it go so that then you can learn how to live well. So first of all, identify what is the childhood trauma and what are the effects that it has. Are you constantly defensive? Are you constantly defensive? Are you constantly pushing people away? Are you constantly having trust issues? These are some of the things that you need to figure out. Where did they stem from? Did they stem from childhood, or did they actually just stem later on in life when you became an adult and life did that thing to you? But if it is childhood trauma, please make sure you also talk to someone. Those who are around people who have experienced trauma, it is important for you to create a safe space. We cannot sing this more, we cannot sing this enough. Create a safe space. Why is this important? Because if we don't create a safe space, someone will not feel comfortable to come and share what their experience is. And so they'll continue living in that place of shame. And this is what Shonamoyo is all about. We are creating safe spaces for people to come and share their experience. Experiences can be very, very different. In as much as the traumatic event can be the same, your experience can be completely different, and then the outcome of it can be completely different. But it would be important if we can share, and if we can talk, and if we can empower each other, then we can be able to overcome some of these things. So please reach out through Shonamoyo on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Please make sure you reach out. In case you are experiencing any kind of trauma, we are able to direct you to who you need to talk to. Or if you know someone, please talk to them, Make sure you share with them. Make sure you introspect and ask yourself, is this who I am, or am I living off coping mechanisms that I developed as a child? And then if you would actually like to come and share your experience and how you managed to overcome, please again reach out to us on Shonamoyo on Facebook, Shonamoyo Instagram, Shonamoyo YouTube, Shonamoyo TikTok, and we will be able to get in contact with you so that you can share and empower. Think about it. Someone needs freedom, and you could be the key to that freedom. Reach out to us if you'd like to share and empower someone. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Same time, same place, where we talk, share, empower. Kwaheri.